The salvage ship Orion Runner floated quietly near the asteroid belt. Tom sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the drifting shape of an unknown vessel ahead. It was larger than any ship he had ever seen. Its surface was silver but dulled by burn marks and scratches, as if it had been through a great battle. The ship was not moving, and no signal came from it. Tom was a space salvage worker. He made his living by collecting scrap from wrecked ships and selling it to traders at nearby stations. Usually, his work was simple. He would scan a wreck, remove valuable parts, and leave before anything dangerous happened. But this time was different. This ship was alien. The scanners could not identify its model or origin. The hull had strange, curved markings that seemed to shimmer faintly in the dark. No human design looked like this. Tom felt a mix of excitement and caution. Alien wrecks were rare and dangerous, but they could also hold treasures worth more than a year's income. After locking the Orion Runner onto the alien hull with magnetic clamps, Tom put on his helmet and stepped into the airlock. The metal floor vibrated softly under his boots as the magnetic seal engaged. He floated into the wreck through a narrow opening, shining his helmet light ahead. Inside, the ship was silent. The air was thin and cold, and dust floated like slow-moving mist. The walls curved smoothly, as if grown rather than built, and every surface had glowing blue lines running along it. Tom walked slowly, his gloved hands brushing the walls. He wondered what kind of beings had built such a place. As he moved deeper, the silence began to feel heavy. His helmet picked up no life signs. The ship seemed abandoned. He passed what looked like doorways, but most were sealed shut. One door hung half open, revealing a chamber filled with floating glass-like shards. They reflected his light in all directions, making it hard to see clearly. Tom continued forward until he reached a wider corridor. The floor here had a strange dark stain, almost like dried liquid. He knelt to examine it when he heard a faint sound behind him. It was a soft breath. Tom froze. His heart began to beat faster, but he forced himself to stay calm. Slowly, he turned his head. A figure was standing at the far end of the corridor. She was tall, taller than him by at least a head. Her skin glowed faintly with a pale blue light, and her eyes shone like silver under his helmet beam. Her hair floated gently around her face, as if the air itself was lighter around her. She wore a dark, fitted suit that looked smooth as liquid, metal. Before Tom could speak, the figure moved toward him without a sound. Her steps were silent, but there was an unshakable presence in the way she walked. Tom stayed still, unsure if she was a threat or not. When she reached him, she extended a hand and gripped his wrist. Her touch was firm, but not painful. Her skin was cool, almost cold, and he could feel a faint vibration, like distant energy, running beneath it. She leaned closer until her glowing eyes filled his vision. Her voice was quiet but carried a strange echo as she spoke. "Why aren't you terrified of me?" The words caught Tom by surprise. He had expected a demand, a warning, or even silence, but not that question. He stared back, not answering immediately. She studied his face, her silver eyes searching for something. Her grip on his wrist tightened slightly, but not in anger, more as if she feared he might disappear if she let go. Tom finally spoke, his voice calm inside his helmet. "Should I?" "Be?" Her expression did not change, but her eyes narrowed slightly, as though she was trying to understand him. Most beings in the galaxy, she said, would run or attack if they saw her. Her kind was feared and avoided. Yet here stood a human who did neither. Tom looked into her strange silver eyes and saw exhaustion. This was not a hunter chasing prey. This was someone stranded, someone who had been through something harsh. He had seen that same look in the eyes of miners after cave-ins or pilots after losing their crew. He did not move his arm away. Instead, he asked, "What happened to your ship?" For a moment, she did not answer. Then she released his wrist and stepped back. "You do not even know who I am," she said, her voice still soft but laced with confusion. "No," Tom replied, "but I know you're alive. And that's reason enough to talk before deciding anything." The woman tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something far away. Then she turned and motioned for him to follow. Tom hesitated only for a second, before moving after her. His boots clicked softly on the metal floor. As they walked, he noticed her steps were slower than before, almost weary. The corridors twisted and sloped, leading them deeper into the ship. The glowing blue lines on the walls pulsed faintly, as though reacting to her presence. They reached a small chamber. In the center was a broken control console, its surface cracked and dark. The woman touched the edge of the console, and a faint ripple of light spread across it. "This ship was not meant to be here," she said quietly. "It was part of a journey to a place your people do not know. We were caught in a storm of debris. The engines failed. The others are gone." Tom could hear the weight in her voice. She was not just stranded. She was alone. He removed a water pack from his belt and offered it to her. She looked at it as if unsure what it was. Tom opened it slightly to show the liquid inside, then handed it over again. She accepted it and drank slowly, her eyes never leaving his face. "You are strange," she said at last. "Strange for a human." Tom gave a small shrug. "Maybe. Or maybe you've just met the wrong ones before." Her gaze softened slightly, but her posture remained guarded. "You should leave. This place is not safe. Others will come and they will not speak, to you as I do." Tom glanced around the broken chamber, then back at her. "If it's not safe for me, it's not safe for you either." She did not answer. The silence between them stretched, filled only by the distant creaks of the damaged ship. Tom adjusted, his helmet light, and looked at the corridors ahead. He had come here searching for salvage, but now he had found something far more important, a living being who might be friend or enemy, but who was clearly in need. The chamber was quiet except for the faint hum of damaged systems trying to stay alive. Elara, as she finally introduced herself, stood near the broken console with her arms crossed. Her silver eyes studied Tom as if he were a puzzle she could not solve. "You do not belong here," she said, her voice low but steady. Tom leaned against the wall, his tool pack hanging loosely by his side. "I could say the same about you." Elara tilted her head slightly, as though considering his words. "You are different from the others I have met. When my people meet humans, they keep their distance. Fear travels faster than light, Tom." Thought about that. Maybe that's because they've only seen us when both sides were afraid. She did not reply right away. Her gaze moved to the wall where faint blue light flowed in thin lines. "My ship was part of a diplomatic journey," she began. "We were not armed for war. We carried messages, gifts, and technology to share. But the systems that guide our travel failed, and we crossed into a region controlled by scavenger clans. They saw a target, not a guest. We fled, but the storm in the asteroid belt struck us. Our engines failed, and one by one, my crew vanished." Her voice grew quieter at the last words. Tom could hear the weight in them. "You mean they—" He hesitated, not wanting to finish the question. "They are gone," she said simply. "Some escaped in pods. Some did not survive." Tom didn't press her further. Instead, he looked around the chamber. The walls curved gently, and the air had a strange metallic taste. His helmet sensors still warned of low oxygen. This was no place for a long stay. "Do you have any power left?" he asked. Elara nodded slightly. "Some. Enough for lights, a little heat, and the shields that hide us from long-range scans. But it will not last, and when the shields fail, they will find us." Tom adjusted the strap of his pack. The scavengers? Yes, she said, turning toward him. They follow the scent of dying ships. They will strip everything, even if it means burning what is left. They will not speak to you. They will not listen. He understood her meaning well enough. In his years as a salvage worker, he had seen the kind of people who thrived in lawless regions. They did not take prisoners unless it was for ransom, and they certainly did not show mercy to strangers. You want me to leave before they come, he guessed. Ilara's silver eyes locked on his. Yes. Your ship is small. You can escape unnoticed. But I... She paused, as if the rest of the thought was heavy. I will not survive if they find me. Tom studied her for a moment. She was taller and stronger looking than most humans, but there was no mistaking the fatigue in her posture. Whatever strength her kind had, it was running low. You could come with me, he suggested. Her gaze hardened slightly. If they see me with you, they will not stop chasing. They will hunt both of us. And if we reach your people, they will fear me just as others do. Tom gave a small shrug. Then I guess we'll just have to deal with that when we get there. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment she said nothing. The faint blue lights reflected in her silver, eyes making her look almost like part of the ship itself. Why? She finally asked. Why would you take this risk for me? Tom's answer was simple. Because you're here, and you're alive. That's reason enough. She looked away, as though the words unsettled her more than the idea of scavengers. Tom stepped closer to the console and examined it. Can you pull up a map of the ship? I want to see what's still working. Ilara touched the cracked surface, and faint symbols glowed to life. The display was unlike anything Tom had seen. Instead of sharp lines and grids, the map looked like flowing streams of light branching through a dark shape. Ilara pointed to several glowing points. These are functioning systems, she explained. Here, the power core. Here, the emergency supplies. Here. She hesitated. The last escape pod. Tom raised an eyebrow. Only one? Yes. The others were launched or destroyed. He studied the map. The escape pod was on the far side of the ship. Between them lay several collapsed corridors and unstable areas. How long until the scavengers get here? He asked. Ilara's voice grew tight. Not long. Perhaps hours. Tom made a quick decision. Then we should get moving. If the pod is working, we can leave before they arrive. She did not move right away. You still have a choice, human. You can take what you came for and go. No one would blame you. Tom shook his head. Not happening. For a moment, she simply looked at him. Then she turned toward the doorway. Follow me. Stay close. Some parts of the ship are unstable. They moved together through the corridors. The glow from the walls dimmed and brightened as they passed, as if reacting to her presence. Occasionally, Tom heard distant creaks and groans from the ship's frame. Dust drifted in slow motion through the low gravity. As they walked, Tom noticed Ilara slowing at times, her steps losing their earlier sharpness. She was conserving her strength, but it was clear she had little left to spare. Here, she said after a while, stopping before a sealed door. She pressed her palm to a smooth panel beside it, and the door slid open with a reluctant hiss. Inside was a small storage room. Shelves held strange containers and smooth, rounded devices. She picked up one and handed it to him. This is food, she said. Not harmful to humans. It will give you energy. Tom took it, examining the small silver packet. He tucked it into his pack. Thanks. They continued onward, weaving through narrow passages. Tom kept glancing at his scanner, watching for signs of movement outside the ship. The scavengers could arrive at any moment. Finally, they reached a wide corridor where the blue lights flickered weakly. The floor here was covered with shards of a glass-like material that crunched under their boots. "Beyond this is the pod bay," Alara said. "If the pod is still connected, we can leave." Tom nodded. "Then let's hope we're lucky." They stepped forward, unaware that far above them, in the silent void, several dark shapes had already begun to close in on the drifting alien vessel. The corridor ahead stretched into shadows, its blue lights flickering like dying stars. Tom followed Alara, careful not to step on the sharp, glass-like fragments scattered across the floor. Each crunch echoed too loudly in the silent ship. He kept glancing at his wrist scanner, watching for movement outside. The device had been quiet so far, but his instincts told him the quiet would not last. Alara moved with steady, measured steps. Even though her posture remained strong, Tom could see the way her shoulders lowered slightly, as if carrying invisible weight. She kept her eyes forward, scanning the shadows, as if expecting something to leap from them. They reached a bulkhead. Door sealed shut. Alara placed her palm on the smooth panel beside it, and faint blue light spread under her hand. The door opened with a slow hiss, revealing a narrower passage beyond. "This leads to the pod bay," she said softly. "But there is another problem." Tom stepped through after her. "I'm guessing the problem isn't that the pod is missing?" She shook her head. "No. The problem is that we are not alone." Tom's muscles tightened. "You mean the scavengers?" Alara's silver eyes met his. "Yes. The shields are weakening. They may already be able to detect us." As if her words had called them, Tom's scanner beeped. 3 faint signals blinked at the edge of the display, moving slowly toward their position. He studied the shapes and distances. "They're close," he said. "Looks like they're circling the ship. They are searching for a safe way." "In," Alara replied. "Once they breach the hull, they will move quickly." Tom glanced around the corridor. "Any chance we can block them out?" She shook her head. "Not for long. They have cutting tools that can slice through the strongest metal." Tom's mind moved quickly. "Then we need to reach the pod before they board. Once we're away from the ship, we can outrun them." Alara nodded, but did not move right away. "There is something you must understand," she said. "If they capture you, they will not kill you immediately. They will try to make you tell them where I am. And they will not be gentle." Tom looked at her steadily. "Noted. Let's make sure that doesn't happen." They moved faster now, their footsteps echoing through the passage. The ship seemed to groan around them, as if it felt the approaching danger. Dust floated in the air, disturbed by their movement. Halfway to the pod bay, the corridor sloped downward into a large chamber. Strange, circular devices lined the walls, each one cracked or broken. Alara paused to glance at them. "What are these?" Tom asked. "Memory chambers," she answered. "They store voices, images, and knowledge. My people use them to teach and to remember." Tom could hear the faint sadness in her tone, but knew there was no time to stop. "We can come back for them later," he said. Alara gave a small nod, and they crossed the chamber. They were almost at the far exit when Tom's scanner beeped again. This time the signals were much closer. Too close. "They're inside," he said sharply. 2 of them just entered near the aft section." Alara's gaze hardened. "Then they will be here soon." They broke into a run. The low gravity made their movements strange, long leaps instead of normal steps. The corridors twisted, forcing them to change direction often. Tom kept checking the scanner, watching as the enemy signals split and began moving along different routes. When they reached the last junction before the pod bay, Alara stopped suddenly and raised her hand for silence. Tom froze. From the corridor, ahead came the faint but distinct sound of metal scraping against metal. It was slow and deliberate, like claws dragging along a wall. "They are ahead of us," she whispered. Tom's grip tightened on his tool pack. Then we need another way around. Alara shook her head. The other routes are blocked by collapsed sections. This is the only way, Tom thought quickly. Then we make it work. Do they know we're here? Not yet, she said. But they will soon. Tom opened his pack and pulled out a small plasma cutter. If we can distract them for just a few seconds, we might get past. Alara considered this, then stepped closer to the wall panel beside the junction. She touched. It and a faint hum filled the corridor. The blue lines on the wall brightened, and a low vibration ran under their feet. This will overload the lights in the next section, she explained. When they fail, the sudden darkness will give us a moment to move. Tom nodded. Let's do it. She pressed her palm firmly against the panel. The hum grew louder, then the lights ahead flickered wildly before going out completely. The corridor beyond fell into deep shadow. Now, Alara said. They moved quickly, staying close to the wall. As they passed the corner, Tom saw two figures. In the darkness, their shapes were bulky, covered in jagged armor patched together from scrap metal. The faint light from Tom's helmet caught the gleam of their curved blades. The scavengers turned at the movement, but by then Tom and Alara were already past them, leaping down the corridor toward the pod bay. Shouts echoed behind them, followed by the pounding of heavy footsteps. The pod bay door was only 20 meters away when an alarm sounded through the ship. Alara's voice was tense. They are trying to override the bay controls. We must hurry. Tom sprinted the last stretch, reaching the control panel beside the door. His hands moved quickly, connecting his cutter to bypass the lock. Sparks flew, and the door slid open with a sharp hiss. Inside, the pod bay was dim but intact. A single escape pod sat in its cradle, its silver surface reflecting the faint blue glow from the walls. Alara stepped inside first, moving toward the pods. Access hatch. Get in. I will start the launch sequence. Tom followed, but before they could close the hatch, a loud crash came from behind them. The scavengers had reached the bay. Two of them stood in the doorway, their armor catching the light like broken glass. One pointed a curved weapon at them, shouting words in a harsh, guttural language. Tom didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. They weren't going to let them leave. Alara's hand hovered near the pod's controls. We have only moments, she said. Tom glanced around the bay, his eyes landing on a heavy cargo clamp near the wall. Without hesitating, he ran to it, activated the release, and sent the massive metal arm swinging toward the doorway. The scavengers jumped back to avoid the sudden movement. It wasn't much, but it gave Alara enough time to hit the launch command. The pod's hatch sealed shut, and the clamps released. As the pod shot free from the bay, Tom caught one last glimpse of the scavengers through the small viewport, their jagged armor glinting in the alien light as they shouted after them. They were free for now. But the hunt had just begun. The escape pod sped away from the alien ship, its small engines humming with steady power. Through the narrow viewport, Tom watched the wreck grow smaller against the dark backdrop of space. For a moment, there was only silence, broken by the soft beeping of the pod systems. Alara sat in the pilot's seat, her long fingers moving over the unfamiliar controls. Her silver eyes stayed fixed on the display in front of her. We have a small lead, she said quietly. But it will. Not last, Tom leaned forward. You're sure they'll come after us? Yes, she replied without hesitation. Scavengers do not give up when they believe something is valuable, and they believe I am valuable. Tom glanced at the radar screen. It showed the drifting shape of the alien ship behind them, but no other contacts yet. Then we'd better make the most of our head start. The pod's interior was small, with only 2 seats and a narrow compartment behind them that held basic supplies. The control panels were lined with glowing symbols Tom didn't recognize. Alara moved her hands with precision, adjusting settings and plotting a course. "I am setting a path toward the edge of this sector," she explained. "If we can reach a safe channel, your people might detect us and send help." Tom nodded. "Sounds good. How long until we get there?" 3 hours, if nothing slows us down," she said. Her tone made Tom glance at her. "And if something does slow us down?" She met his gaze briefly. "Then we will not reach it." Before Tom could reply, the pod's sensors began to beep. Alara's eyes flicked to the display and her expression tightened. "They have found us." 3 red dots appeared on the screen, moving fast. The scavenger ships were small but built for speed, their jagged hulls designed to cut through debris and resist weapon fire. They were still far, but the gap was closing. "Quickly!" "They're faster," Tom said, scanning the controls. "Do we have weapons?" Alara shook her head. "This pod is for escape, not battle. Its only defense is speed." Tom frowned. "Then we need to be smarter than them." She glanced at him. "Do you have an idea?" He pointed at the navigation display. "The asteroid belt is close, right? If we head through it, they can't follow us as fast. Their ships are built for open space, not tight turns." Alara considered it for only a second before nodding. "It is dangerous, but so is being caught." She adjusted their heading, and the pod veered sharply. Ahead, the dark shapes of asteroids grew larger, some spinning slowly, others locked in place. The space between them shimmered with drifting dust and smaller rocks. The pod slipped into the belt, weaving between massive stones. The hull rattled as small fragments struck it. Alara's hands moved with steady control, guiding them through narrow gaps. Behind them, the scavenger ships followed. The radar showed the red dots slowing, slightly, forced to navigate the twisting paths. "It's working," Tom said. "Not enough," Alara replied. "They are still gaining, even here." Tom scanned the asteroid field outside. His eyes landed on a massive chunk of rock with a long fissure running through it, wide enough for the pod to fit. "There," he said, pointing. "Head for that." Crack! Alara adjusted their course. The pod dove toward the fissure, slipping inside just as the scavengers reached the area. The walls of the fissure were jagged, and the space was tight. But the pod moved through with careful precision. When they emerged on the other side, Tom turned to her. "Can we use the asteroids as cover? Maybe loop around so they lose our trail?" Alara's eyes narrowed slightly as she studied the radar. "Perhaps, but we must be quick. Their scanners will search for our heat signature." Tom thought for a moment, then reached for the supply compartment. Inside, he found a small canister of emergency coolant. He held it up. "If we vent this, will it hide our heat for a while?" Her gaze sharpened. "Yes, but we will also lose warmth inside the pod." Tom shrugged. "Better cold than caught." Alara activated the vent system, releasing the coolant into space. The pod's interior temperature began to drop immediately, and Tom felt a chill through his suit. Outside, the coolant spread in a shimmering cloud, masking the heat signature. They drifted slowly behind a large asteroid, shutting off the engines to stay hidden. The radar still showed the scavengers, but their movements grew less certain, their paths crisscrossing as they searched. For several long minutes, neither Tom nor Alara spoke. Only the faint hum of the pod's life support filled the silence. Finally, the radar showed the scavengers turning away, moving deeper into the belt in the wrong direction. Tom exhaled slowly. "Looks like they've lost us." Alara kept watching the display. "For now, but they will not give up completely. Once we restart the engines, they may detect us again." Tom rubbed his hands together for warmth. Then, "We keep moving and stay unpredictable." She gave a small nod and reactivated the engines. The pod slipped quietly through the asteroid belt, keeping to the shadows where possible. Hours passed, and the asteroids began to thin. The edge of the belt came into view, with open space stretching beyond. Elara adjusted their course toward the safe channel she had plotted earlier. Just as the belt fell away behind them, the radar beeped again. Tom's stomach tightened. "Don't tell me." Elara's voice was calm but tense. "They have found our trail again." 2 red dots appeared this time, moving fast. The scavengers had not given up after all. Tom scanned the displays quickly. "How far to the channel?" 20 minutes at full speed, she said. "Then we go full speed." The pod's engines roared softly, pushing them forward. The scavenger ships gained ground, their jagged silhouettes growing larger on the rear camera. Elara's hands moved quickly over the controls, shifting their path slightly to keep them out of the most direct line of fire. "If they reach us before the channel, they will disable our engines," she said. Tom's mind raced. "We need one last trick to slow them down." He looked around the cockpit, then toward the coolant canister storage. Only one was left. "If we release the last coolant and then dive hard to the side, maybe they'll follow the trail instead of us." Elara didn't hesitate. "Do it." Tom opened the vent, releasing the coolant behind them. The pod's engines then cut sharply to the right, sending them on a new course. On the radar, the scavengers split. One followed the coolant trail, the other kept chasing them. "Half worked," Tom said. "Half is enough," Elara replied. "We are almost there." The safe channel beacon appeared ahead, a blinking light in the darkness. As they closed in, the radar showed the remaining scavenger losing ground. When they finally crossed into the beacon's range, a human patrol signal lit up on the screen. Tom felt his shoulders relax for the first time since they had launched. "They can't touch us now," he said. Elara glanced at him, her silver eyes calm but watchful. "Perhaps. But remember, safety is never permanent in this part of space." Tom smiled faintly. "Then we'll just have to keep moving." The pod slid quietly into the docking bay of a small human patrol ship. Its interior lights glowed softly, reflecting off the smooth walls. Tom and Elara unlatched their harnesses, stepping onto the floor of the bay. The hum of the patrol ship's systems filled the space around them, a comforting change from the silence of the asteroid belt. Tom looked around. The bay was empty except for a few small supply crates. The docking clamps released the pod, and it floated gently to the side. Elara's eyes moved over the walls and controls, noting the differences from her ship. "Your people have a very different design," she said quietly. Tom shrugged. "We keep it simple. Easy to fix, easy to move. You've spent a lot of time thinking about style." Elara did not respond immediately. She was scanning the patrol ship's systems, her long fingers brushing the control panels with careful precision. "These systems are basic," she said finally, "but functional. I can work with them if necessary." Tom's attention returned to the scanner he carried. The red dots of the scavenger ships were still visible outside, though smaller now. "They're following us," he said. "They won't give up easily." Elara's silver eyes met his. "Then we will need to stand and fight if it comes to that." Tom nodded. He felt a strange respect for her. She was not human, yet she was prepared to work alongside him. Together, they had survived the chase through the asteroid belt. He trusted her instincts, and she trusted his courage. The patrol ship's door control panel beeped suddenly. A warning light flashed. "They are approaching the docking bay," Elara said calmly. "We have little time." Tom's mind raced. The scavengers were faster and stronger, but they were not prepared for this kind of environment. The docking bay offered narrow corridors, traps, and heavy machinery that could be used to their advantage. "Then we make our stand," Tom said. Elara nodded. She moved toward the ship's control room, her movements precise and confident. "I will reroute power to the defensive systems," she said. "You take the corridors and block their approach." Tom smiled faintly. "Sounds good." He grabbed a heavy tool from a nearby crate, a small plasma cutter, and moved into the corridor leading to the docking entrance. The scavenger ships had already begun lowering small boarding drones, and the faint shadows of humanoid figures moved along the outer walls. Tom positioned himself near a narrow junction, where only one figure could pass at a time. He tested the plasma cutter. Sparks flew when he activated it, and he smiled. "This is going to be fun." Ilara's voice came through his earpiece. "I have activated the turret systems. They will help hold them back, but they will not stop everything. Be careful." Tom nodded and turned his attention to the corridor. The first scavenger appeared, stepping cautiously into the narrow space. Its jagged armor glinted in the soft lights, and it brandished a curved weapon. Tom waited until it was close, then swung the plasma cutter. The blade sliced through the air, forcing the scavenger to step back. Sparks flew against its armor, making it stagger. Ilara's turret systems activated, firing precise energy beams at the approaching drones. One exploded, sending fragments scattering across the floor. Tom pressed forward, using the narrow corridor to keep the scavengers in a single line. Inside the control room, Ilara worked quickly, rerouting power to reinforce the doors and shields. Her fingers moved across unfamiliar panels, but she did so with confidence. Tom had seen few humans move this fast and few aliens this efficient. Together, they were a team. Another scavenger advanced in the corridor. Tom jumped to the side, using a small console as a shield. The plasma cutter cut through the air, forcing the scavenger to retreat once more. "Good," Ilara's voice said. "Keep them in the corridor. Do not let them reach the control room." Tom nodded, keeping his focus sharp. His heartbeat raced, but he felt alive. He realized then that this was more than survival. This was a test of courage, skill, and trust. Several drones moved in from a side hatch, and Tom triggered a small crate filled with spare coolant canisters. The crate fell, and the canisters rolled, forcing the drones to stumble. Sparks and smoke filled the corridor. "They won't get through this easily," Tom said. Ilara's voice was calm but firm. "I have reinforced the doors. We can hold them here for a little while, but you must be ready. They may try another route." Tom glanced at the junction. The scavengers were regrouping. He knew they would not wait long. He held his plasma cutter ready, his eyes scanning for any movement. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was taller and stronger than the others, its armor patched and jagged, with a weapon that glowed faintly red. Tom realized this must be their leader. He felt a surge of fear, but he ignored it. He had faced danger before, but never like this. This was not just about survival. It was about protecting someone who had trusted him. The leader moved forward cautiously, and Tom stepped into its path. He swung the plasma cutter, forcing the scavenger to defend itself. Sparks flew, illuminating the corridor in brief flashes. Ilara's turrets fired precisely, striking drones and forcing the leader to pause. Tom pressed forward, using the corridor to limit its movements. The battle was intense but controlled. Tom and Ilara coordinated perfectly, each understanding the other without words. The scavengers were strong, but the humans' ingenuity and the aliens' precision made them formidable. After several minutes, the last scavenger in the corridor fell back, forced to retreat. Tom stood breathing heavily, plasma cutter still active, his arms tired but strong. Ilara stepped out of the control room, her silver eyes shining. "Well done," she said. "We have held them back for now." Tom lowered the cutter, smiling, faintly. "That was closer than I like, but we did it," she nodded. "But this is only the beginning. They will not give up easily." Tom glanced at the corridor, the quiet settling around them once more. "Then we stay ready, together." Ilara's gaze met his, and for a moment her expression softened. "I did not expect a human to fight like this. You are different from what I believed." Tom smiled. "Different can be good. Together, they stood in the control room, ready for whatever came next. The scavengers were still out there, but for now, they had made their stand. They had proven that courage, teamwork, and trust could turn the tide, even against overwhelming odds. The patrol ship's lights reflected softly across the walls, illuminating the two unlikely allies. Outside, the stars continued their silent drift, indifferent to the struggle taking place within the ship. But inside, Tom and Alara knew they had fought well and survived. For now. The human patrol ship hummed steadily as Tom and Alara prepared for departure. The corridor was quiet now, but both of them knew the calm was temporary. Outside, the scavenger ships were regrouping, waiting for any sign of weakness. Alara sat at the control console, her long fingers moving quickly across the alien symbols and human buttons. Tom stood beside her, watching the display and monitoring the scanners. Every red dot represented danger, every flicker of light a potential threat. "We need to move before they recover," Tom said. "They'll find a way into this ship if we hesitate." Alara nodded. "I am plotting a course through the nearby nebula. Its gas clouds will make it harder for them to track us. But the path is narrow, and one wrong move could destroy the ship." Tom tightened his grip on the edge of the console. "Then we make sure we don't make a wrong move." Alara's silver eyes met his. "Stay ready. This will require both of us." The ship shuddered as the engines powered up. Tom felt the vibration in his boots and leaned slightly to keep balance. The docking bay doors opened, revealing the dark expanse of space. Stars glimmered in the distance, but so did the faint shapes of the pursuing scavengers. "Here we go," Tom muttered. Alara guided the ship out carefully. The patrol ship was not built for speed, but it handled well in skilled hands. Tom watched the displays, noting the movement of each pursuing ship. They were fast and persistent, but the nebula offered hope. As the ship approached the gas clouds, visibility decreased. The nebula's colorful gases swirled around them, red, purple, and blue streaks blending into one another. Tom felt his heart race. Navigating through this was like threading a needle at high speed. "They'll have trouble following us here," Alara said. "The gas interferes with their scanners." Tom nodded, though he knew it would not stop them completely. "Then, we push forward and stay unpredictable." The patrol ship weaved through the swirling gases. Alara adjusted the engines, keeping their trajectory precise. The red shapes of the scavenger ships flickered through the clouds but could not keep up. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. Alara's eyes widened. "Debris!" she shouted. Tom grabbed a nearby support rail as fragments of rock and frozen particles struck the hull. The patrol ship rattled under the impact. "We're not slowing down!" he yelled. Alara's hands moved quickly, stabilizing the engines and adjusting shields. Sparks flew from a nearby panel, but she ignored it, focused on the path ahead. "Hold on!" she commanded. The ship dodged several massive chunks of debris, the hull groaning under the strain. Tom's heart pounded, but he trusted her skill. Every movement was precise, every adjustment calculated. They emerged into a clearer section of the nebula, but the scavenger ships were closing again. Tom glanced at the radar. 2 red dots had penetrated the outer edge of the gas clouds and were accelerating toward them. "They're adapting," he said. "We need something drastic." Alara's lips pressed into a thin line. "I have one idea," she said. "We can use the gravity well of the nearby planet to slingshot the ship. It will increase our speed dramatically, but if we miscalculate—" "We won't miscalculate," Tom said. "We've got this." She nodded, her fingers moving over the controls with precision. "Prepare yourself," she said. The patrol ship angled toward the planet, its engines roaring against the pull of gravity. Tom felt himself pressed into his seat as the ship accelerated. Outside, stars blurred into streaks, and the nebula's colors shifted rapidly. The scavenger ships followed, but they were not prepared for the sudden surge in speed. The patrol ship shot past the gravitational point, flinging them forward faster than either human or alien vessel could have managed. Alone. Tom's eyes widened. It worked! Alara smiled faintly, her silver eyes bright. But we are not safe yet. They will regroup. He nodded. Then we keep moving. Full speed ahead. The patrol ship cut through open space, leaving the nebula behind. The stars returned to normal, distant, and calm, but the red blips of pursuing ships appeared on the radar once more. They are faster than we expected, Tom said. And there's more than just the two we saw earlier. Alara's expression hardened. They are coordinating. We will need to be clever. Tom thought quickly. What if we split up? We make it look like the ship is going in one direction, then take a hidden route. Alara's eyes flicked over the charts. There is a field of asteroid debris near the next star system. It is risky, but it could work. Tom grinned. Risky is better than captured. She plotted the course, and the patrol ship veered sharply toward the debris field. The sensors lit up with warnings, but Alara ignored most of them, focusing on the path ahead. Tom held on to the support rail, feeling the ship's hull vibrate as it threaded through the tight spaces. The scavenger ships followed, but the debris slowed them down. Pieces of rock and metal drifted, forcing them to adjust their paths. Tom watched as one of the ships clipped a rock, its hull sparking. Another swerved to avoid a cluster of debris, losing ground. We're gaining, Tom said, hope rising. Alara did not respond immediately. Her eyes stayed on the controls. Not yet, she said. They will adapt quickly. We must keep our maneuvers unpredictable. They twisted and turned through the field, moving like a single entity. The patrol ship responded perfectly to Alara's commands, and Tom's observations helped anticipate obstacles. The scavenger ships struggled to keep up. Finally, the edge of the debris field appeared ahead. Tom and Alara could see the safe passage into open space. The stars stretched before them, peaceful and calm after the chaos. Alara adjusted the engines one final time, accelerating smoothly. The red blips of the scavenger ships slowed as they lost the advantage of the debris field. Tom exhaled deeply. We did it, he said, feeling the tension lift. Alara smiled faintly, her silver eyes reflecting the distant stars. For now, she said, but we must remain vigilant. The galaxy is full of dangers. Tom nodded, his eyes on the stars. Ahead. Then we stay together. That's how we survive. The patrol ship moved steadily into open space, leaving the nebula, the debris field, and the scavenger ships behind. For the first time since their escape began, Tom allowed himself to relax, feeling the warmth of hope and the bond formed with an alien stranger who had become his ally. They had escaped the immediate danger, but both knew this was only a temporary reprieve. Ahead lay unknown space, new challenges, and new possibilities. But for now, they were free. Together, they could face whatever came next. The patrol ship glided through open space, its engines steady and calm after the chaos of the nebula and debris fields. Tom sat in the co-pilot's seat, scanning the radar for any sign of pursuit. The red blips of the scavenger ships were gone, replaced by the distant glow of stars and the faint outline of a nearby planet. Alara sat at the main controls, her silver eyes focused, but her expression relaxed slightly. We have a temporary reprieve, she said. The scavengers will regroup, but they will not find us easily. Tom nodded, feeling a sense of relief he had not experienced since the chase began. Then we have time to plan our next move. Alara glanced at him. You have done well, human. I did not expect your kind to show such courage, intelligence, and persistence. Tom chuckled softly. I've had to survive a few tough situations. But I have to admit, I've never faced anything like this before. She studied him for a moment, then looked back at the stars. Neither have I. Your people are resilient. Tom looked out the viewport. The planet ahead was calm, with soft blues and greens visible through its thin atmosphere. Do you want to land there? Maybe we can find shelter and repair the ship. Elara shook her head slightly. We are not safe yet. If the scavengers locate this sector, any landing site could be compromised. We need to move farther away first. Tom sighed but understood. Safety had always been temporary in space, and patience was just as important as courage. Then we keep moving. For hours they traveled in silence, the hum of the engines and the faint sounds of the ship's systems filling the cabin. Tom watched Elara work, fascinated by her precision and knowledge. Every movement was calculated, every decision deliberate. She was not human, but her skill reminded him of the best pilots he had ever known. Finally, the patrol ship reached the edge of the sector, where human sensors could pick them up more easily. Tom activated the long-range communication array, sending a coded signal to nearby patrol stations. Within minutes, a response came through. Friendly ships were nearby, ready to provide escort and protection. Elara's eyes softened as she observed the signal. Your people are more organized than I imagined. Tom smiled faintly. They take care of each other when they can, but it's not perfect. She nodded, as if understanding more than words could express. Perhaps this is the first time I have truly seen humans not as threats, but as allies. Tom turned to her. And perhaps it is the first time I have seen an alien not as something to fear, but as someone I can trust. Her silver eyes met his, and for a long moment neither spoke. They had been through so much together, chased through asteroids, trapped in confined corridors, facing enemies stronger and faster than either of them, and yet they had survived. Together. Suddenly, a blip appeared on the radar. Faint, but unmistakable. One scavenger ship had managed to track them this far. Its red dot blinked slowly, almost like a reminder that danger still existed. Tom's jaw tightened. One left. We can handle it. Elara's fingers danced over the controls, rerouting energy to the shields and engines. It will not be easy, but we have an advantage. This patrol sector is monitored, and they will notice the ship immediately. Tom nodded. Then let's make them regret following us. The scavenger ship appeared on the main screen, jagged and dark against the stars. It fired a warning shot, a bright pulse that struck near the patrol ship. Tom felt the vibration through the floor, but remained steady. Return fire? He asked. Elara shook her head. No. If we engage, we risk damaging the ship. We need strategy, not brute force. Tom studied the radar. Then we lead it into the sector. Let the human ships handle the rest. She nodded. Agreed. Follow. My lead. The patrol ship accelerated, weaving slightly to appear as if it were escaping blindly. The scavenger followed, confident and relentless. Tom's hands gripped the console as he monitored the enemy's movements. At the edge of the sector, human ships appeared, their engines glowing as they aligned with the patrol ship. Elara signaled them, and the ships formed a tight formation around the patrol vessel. The scavenger realized too late that it had walked into a trap. Energy beams struck the scavenger from multiple angles, forcing it to retreat. Sparks flew across its hull, and it veered sharply, trying to escape. Tom exhaled slowly, watching as the enemy ship disappeared into the distance, beaten but alive, a reminder that persistence was part of its nature. Elara leaned back slightly, her tension easing. We are safe, at least for now. Tom glanced at her. And we've done it together. Her gaze softened. You risked your life for me. You did not hesitate when most humans would have fled. Tom smiled faintly. You did the same. We made it because we trusted each other. For the first time since their journey began, both of them allowed themselves to relax. The stars outside glimmered peacefully, and the human ships formed a protective escort around them. Ilara turned slightly, studying Tom with a quiet curiosity. I had expected fear, hesitation, perhaps even betrayal, but you were steady, courageous, and you thought beyond yourself. Tom shrugged modestly. I've learned that survival isn't just about strength. It's about decisions, trust, and knowing who stands with you. She nodded slowly. Then perhaps I have learned something from humans as well. Courage is not measured by physical strength alone, but by the willingness to act when it matters most. Tom's smile widened, and it's better when shared. The patrol ship continued on its path, escorted by human vessels, moving safely toward a secure station where repairs could begin and they could rest. Outside the viewport, the vastness of space stretched endlessly, dangerous, beautiful, and full of possibilities. Ilara's voice broke the comfortable silence. What will you do once we reach the station? Tom considered the question. I'll make sure you're safe first. Then, I'll go back to what I do best, but I won't forget this. She nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the distant stars. Nor will I. You have shown me that humans are capable of far more than I imagined. Tom glanced at her, a small warmth in his chest. And you've shown me that not all unknown things are meant to be feared. They sat together in the calm of the patrol ship, two beings from entirely different worlds, bound by trust, courage, and shared experience. The stars continued to shine, unchanging yet eternal witnesses to the small victories of life and understanding. As the station came into view, its lights glowing softly in the distance, Tom felt a sense of closure and new beginnings. The scavengers were behind them, the danger managed, and for the first time, hope felt real. Ilara's gaze shifted to the station. We have survived. Together. Tom nodded. Together. And with that, the patrol ship moved steadily toward safety, carrying two unlikely allies who had faced the void of space, danger, and uncertainty, and emerged stronger, wiser, and united by trust.